And the final thing I wanted to do is just a success story here. So this is the SpaceX Falcon 9. This was back September 1st last year. They were launching an Israeli communications satellite. And typically, a couple of days before launch with the SpaceX vehicles, they do a fueling test. And then they fire the engines for a static test of just a few seconds to turn them on, make sure they're working, turn them off, and that's their final test before they get ready to launch. And so here's a view of that on September 1st. They fueled the rocket, and there was a major problem. So not only did they lost roughly a $200 million satellite as well as the rocket, but they caused fairly major damage to the launch pad, which is still under repair. And obviously they had to scrub all the launches that were scheduled until they figured out what was going on. And what they've determined is on the second stage, let me back up here, of the rocket, it's liquid oxygen and kerosene. And embedded in the second stage, there are what are called composite overwrapped pressure vessels. And so they're these gas tanks that have pressurized helium in them, and they use the helium to pressurize the liquid oxygen tank. And they think, based on the behavior, that one of those COP-Vs wrinkled a little bit, and liquid oxygen pooled into the wrinkles, and that causes the carbon fibers to stretch and flex, and that causes a little bit of friction, which can cause a spark. And when you have a spark in liquid oxygen, you saw what happened. So they've changed their procedures. They actually had 27 successful flights of this without a problem. And so now they've gone back to the old way of doing it. And so last week we had the first launch since the accident in September. This was from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. And this was carrying 10 small communication satellites for the Iridium system. And the one thing I wanted to point out here, you see this serial number. So this is number 29. They actually have built the first stage with the intent of recovering it and reflying it. And so what you're seeing here is folded up legs that pop down. And I'll show you how the landing proceeds, but that is why they're putting serial numbers on them now, so you can readily tell just by the pictures of when it was last used. And so this is a view of this is the first stage from here on down, second stage here up. And I just wanted you to pay attention to these little waffle iron things here. They're actually guidance fins, and you'll see those. There's a camera positioned, I think it's probably in this fairing, looking down the first stage, and we'll see the video from that.
And we're coming up on the ending.
So there's the grid fins. They use that to steer. This is
you can hear the applause in the background from the SpaceX team
the first stage.
gathered around the Mission Control Center
the engines
as we're watching the 3 Merlin engines on the first stage light, and we have got shutdown for the boost back burn.
What a great shot that is. It's beautiful.
And they have what's called an autonomous drone ship. It's about a football field sized
we're going to try our best to keep
barge
that link,
that
and
sits a few
hopefully
hundred
once that
miles
landing burn hits,
downrange
we'll
of
catch
the
it, we'll
launch
see it
site.
visually. And if all goes
so
well,
they're
Falcon 9 will be
plummeting
standing
at
proud there
something
on the
like
deck
Mach
of our
2 toward the ocean.
You may have
at this
noticed
point.
little puffs of what looked like smoke coming out from between
And
the grid
notice
fins every once in a while. Those are part of the
steering with
additive
these
control
things.
system.
And I'll point out in just a second, you'll see the barge
burn has just started.
approaching very rapidly. And so the engine is ignited again to
This is a single engine
to
landing
slow it
burn, so it's
down.
a slower
And so
decrease
here's the
in
barge.
speed.
There's a bullseye on the barge. There's the legs unfolding. And there it is. And I think next they had a drone half a mile or so from the barge. So here's the barge.
So you're seeing live footage of Course I Still Love You, our drone ship, waiting for the...
And there's the rocket coming in.
Slow it down, lets it deploy.
There we go. So these are just a few still images from the barge. There's those fins that we were looking at. So we were sitting up here looking down. And here it is about 3 days after recovery. It came into the docks at Long Beach near Los Angeles. And then they take the legs off, they rotate it horizontal, they put it on a truck and take it back to the factory and refurbish it. Within the next month, they plan to launch the first reflight of one of these first stages. And so keep an eye in the news. That'll be the first time that's been done with anything other than the space shuttle. So that'll be an exciting event when they can actually reuse these things. So, and I wanted to leave you with this. This is another story from Mars. This is a view of the Earth and the Moon from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the HiRISE camera, the super high resolution camera. And so what we're seeing here, this is Southeast Asia, and you can sort of see Australia. And so the moon is used frequently as a calibration target because it's very well-known reflectivity. It doesn't have clouds like the Earth does. And so periodically they do these images just to calibrate the camera.